Hello, and welcome to the Impact Your Fitness podcast, part of the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast network. My name is Jennifer Schwartz, and today I'm going to talk to you about some of my favorite tendon facts. So, as you may have noticed, I have this unique curiosity and appreciation for the muscular system and how it influences us and our movement. Every single muscle and every single movement, every breath. That fascinates me. But also, what it means to have a high-functioning muscular system and what that looks like in terms of exercise and just feeling your best day to day. I've worked with so many people that have had aches and pains and tightness and have learned a lot over these years of working with those people and what it means to enhance the muscular system, optimize it, and how that helps people feel great and move well. And what it means to optimize the muscular system and have consistent exercise. That's very important to keep moving without the hiccups and win at life. We have more control over this whole entire process when this system is optimized. And that's where tendons come in. The education about tendons that we are about to embark on in less than 20 minutes. How cool is that? Tendons are interesting tissues. They're different from muscle. They're different from ligaments. They're different from bone. And they have a special place in my heart. I've often told people our body gives us so much feedback if we actually know how to listen. And the know-how comes from knowledge in anatomy and science and kinesiology and all those sciences, right? I'm not proficient in all the sciences, but anatomy I know and I love. So let's get into some of my favorite tendon facts. Here's the first one. And I love telling this one to clients, so I'm going to be super excited over the next few minutes telling you about this. Tendons rely on our circadian rhythm to repair and stay away from calcification. You might not know what calcification is, but you should know that exercise impacts tendons just like it impacts muscles. So they have their own healing process. It takes longer than muscles, and it relies on the circadian rhythm. So that means tendons rely on our sleep system, our nervous system to stay pain-free, healthy, and not have excessive inflammation. So tendinitis is inflammation. This is perfect timing for this talk also because last night my sleep was pretty cruddy. It was not great. And I just did a session of red light therapy, and that's where we're starting from. I wanted to give my circadian rhythm a boost and help my biology get into the right rhythm. And I'll talk about this in a more scientific concept because that's just how I deal with it. But a study in mice compared normal and abnormal tendon healing. So imagine these tiny little tendons on little mice, and they were looking at like recovering and healing and how the tendons were doing that with various manipulations to the mice and the mouse circadian rhythm. So they were manipulating the light. They kept some mouse in 12 hours of dark and then put them in 12 hours of light cycles. They just controlled their light environment. And then they exposed other ones to a lot more light and a lot less light. So the tendon circadian rhythm issue, they saw changes in the tendons throughout the day. So they were really looking microscopically at these tendons. So we're talking at the fiber level that they're viewing these things. Tiny tendons, big microscopes. And that happens. So they saw tendon changes throughout the day, and that happens in us as well. So one theory is that tendons gather or gain waste product during the day, and therefore they gain size while they're collecting that waste. And then they hold on to the waste until nighttime, and in deep sleep, the waste gets cleaned out. But if they don't get that circadian rhythm trigger, meaning you don't get into deep sleep, this clean out process doesn't happen. At night, the tendons decrease in size and they get rid of the excess and clean themselves out. Okay, back to one of the first words I said, calcification. That is actually hardening or chronic dysfunction like around the tendon. So it's these pockets of calcium that become hard, and I think it's really like leftover waste products from multiple nights of not getting deep sleep. Just my theory. Not just my theory. That's my words. But what's interesting is like the circadian rhythm is telling the body to start cleaning out and then uses the lymph nodes and all that stuff. And when we don't have good sleep, the tendons just don't get that trash taken out. So my go-to solution for tendon issues is to educate people on sleep and cycles of sleep, but also like to use the red light therapy right away and educate people on circadian rhythm and using something like red light therapy or just natural sunlight, like go outside in the morning. And there's many, podcasts on this. It's just, I think I'm just wanting to tie this into like the tendons and why they're so interesting. So I think the most invested people with like their health probably should have a red light. It's just a really cool device to help your whole body generate energy. And if you have a bad night's sleep, you use it. When I used to drink, it used to help me get rid of a hangover. So the device is very powerful. But anyways, I'm also going to give you a link to my affiliate with Mito Red Light, and their lights are superior. I'll also include a YouTube link to a comparison of devices, so you know a little bit more about the device, the Mito Red Light. So tendons are not typically considered circadian rhythm organs. This is new information. So the circadian rhythms, they're physiological processes that occur over a 24-hour cycle. Each internal organ has one, and that means each internal organ has an internal biological clock. These rhythms are found in many organs, and that includes the brain, the liver, the skin, and the kidney. They all have their own clock. There's more. And it has been shown in some aspects of muscle function, such as strength and power, that even varies over the course of a day in our circadian pattern. So it's a clock. So cool. Or a battery. It's a link. It's a whole charge through the system, through this clock. More on that later. I'm moving on. So the variation in muscle function that I just referred to is also related to the activity of the tendons with the rhythm because they're connected and they rely on each other. The literature has shown that the expression of genes related to tendon function can be influenced by their body's circadian clock. So like I said earlier, not my theory. Other people are talking and studying this. The evidence I referred to earlier was published in Cell Biology, and I have a link from Nature if you want to check that out. Check the show notes and that study with the mice and that suggests that tendon stiffness and elasticity does vary with their circadian pattern. I don't know. It's just so cool. They get larger during the day and they shrink to push that waste product out at night. But only if the brain and the systems trigger it. So if sleep isn't happening, the circadian rhythm doesn't take out the trash or doesn't ignite that process. So let's go over to our second fact. Isometrics are the best way to load a tendon. Isometric exercises are safe, effective, and it's something that we use here at Impact Your Fitness Studio to help people improve their posture, improve their circulation, improve their strength, improve their endurance. The list is pretty long, actually. It also helps improve pain. Actually, one of my favorite benefits is that it helps people understand their own body's movement. And like gym training, we don't usually train for, alignment, stability, contractile efficiency, and muscle recovery. So isometrics, you can load the tendon and you can get all those benefits I just talked about. So it's a very cool thing to incorporate in your exercise. So I've said it so many times, they have an anagilic effect, these isometrics, meaning they can calm the nervous system down and create pain-free movement within minutes. And I've seen it so many times. I've experienced it as well. Isometric exercise, in just a couple minutes later, you can have pain-free movement with just 2 minutes of isometric exercise. And there's no pain because the brain created that opportunity and the nervous system was able to relax the muscle. So it's a beautiful symphony of events that we see here every day. But for tendons specifically, for healing tendinitis and painful tendons, isometrics are the go-to, and they are literally the best. Even the research is showing this. It's not just myself and colleagues that believe and practice this. Isometrics, in short, improve the ability to produce force. And for the tendon, that helps alleviate maybe some of the stress that was causing the tendinitis. That's very cool. Virtual high five to you all. These low-impact isometric exercises can be performed without putting excessive strain or stress onto the tendons. It actually makes them open up and behave differently. We're done boasting about isometrics for right now, okay? Now, the third fun fact about tendons. Tendons are viscoelastic. Tendons change their mechanical behavior based on the rate of mechanical strain. So that means fast movements are high strain rates. And that means when you're moving slow, like in isometric or walking, the tendon changes its function. That is so cool. Muscles can't do that. Well, they do change their behavior, but not quite as drastic as that. So how they function and that the structure allows for that change to happen. So that's the cool fact. What happens is the tendon, it has this sheath, and that sheath has a bunch of molecules and cells, and that's where the energy is stored from muscular contraction. When the muscle lengthens to pull on a tendon in this fast movement, the tendon behaves elastically to store energy. And then when the muscle shortens, the tendon recoils and releases its stored energy to assist in movement. And then in slow movements, the tendons are more viscous. So that's a really interesting thing, because if we're talking about sports and fast movement, tendons function to resist and transmit forces from muscle to bone. The shape of the tendon works to their function or speaks to that function. And this function and this property of a tendon is all about the structural organization of collagen and the fibrils. So when we have an injured tendon, what happens is there's this shielding done by other parts of the tendon, like a rock in a stream. And the rock breaks the stress of the moving water away, so the injured areas remain as is and protected from any training stimulus. And the working area of the tendons shield any force from going through there. That's another way it can change its function and being viscoelastic. So it has this built-in protective mechanism, and I think that's fascinating. I think this also speaks to that circadian rhythm. Fun fact that they do change in size, and, they change in size for their awake behavior and their fast-moving behavior and their protective behavior. That's very cool. Okay, I have a fourth tendon fact here. And that is that resting a tendon in the first 2 weeks of injury basically makes it weaker, which is so funny because that is just the common way to address a tendon issue. And yeah, geez. Well, there's a researcher named Jill Cook, and she has this great physiotherapy presentation on YouTube. If you want to get more into the medical side of it, I've linked that video. And the other thing that's really important to know is that the collagen fibers need activity. That's why isometrics are so great for healing tendon injuries. And what's interesting also is that a lot of rest, a lot of ice, NSAIDs like Advil, like popping an anti-inflammatory, it affects the collagen matrix and the collagen fibers in a negative way. So all of those things are weakening a tendon injury, and it's just the opposite of the conventional wisdom. And my fourth favorite fact is that, actually that tendons heal from loading and moving it, which again is the opposite of the conventional wisdom. I have many other facts that I'd like to share, but that's a wrap for today. Thanks for indulging with me today. If you want to learn more about isometrics, head on over to jennifersimoneschwartz.com and you'll learn about the courses that I offer. We also talk about safe exercise and thoughtful exercise techniques at thinkfitbefitpodcast.com. Or if you want to experience all these, tech-savvy ways of like red light therapy of healing tendons and, tight muscles, then you can hang out with me and get treated in Alexandria, Virginia at impactyourfitness.net. It's a pleasure to share these fun facts with you. I think you can tell I'm smiling about tendons. So nobody loves muscles and tendons more than me, I think. So let's get together again next week and talk about ways to impact your fitness. Have a wonderful week, and thanks again for being here.